It's a very sad day. Today is the day I have to ship off the FX3 to its new beloved owner. But before I ship it off, I wanted to make a quick video explaining the differences between these two for you guys and gals that don't know the freaking differences. So let's get it. What up, y'all? Tight Shirt Terry Warfare. I'm back for another video. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. Hey, remember to be thankful for your life today, because you did not have to have that on with the meat potatoes before I get started. I don't script videos, so your boy might mess up. I might forget some things. If I do, just let me know in the comments. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Right now, disclaimer, as I said in the last video, I'm not saying that you should go sell your FX3 for a ZV-E1, but they do share a whole lot in common, starting with the sensor. So let's go ahead and take off these Condor Blue sensor caps, link in the description. These have the exact same sensor, 12 megapixels. They're both amazing image quality. They both have 14 plus stops of dynamic range. They both shoot S-Log3. They both are low light animals, and the image quality out of both is just so good, yo. So when it comes to image quality, they are literally the exact same camera, but that's where the freaking similarities stop. So let's start off with strengths of the FX3. Now, I do have a little small rear cage on the ZV-E1, but it looks a little bit beefier and more industrialized than it typically would without the cage on there. But as you see, the Sony FX3 is just a animal. It's much beefier, more robust. This thing looks good, it feels good. It's an industrial design. It looks like a real true baby cinema camera. The grip is a lot deeper on the Sony FX3 versus the ZV-E1, and I'm gonna slide the ZV-1 out the picture to focus on the FX3. The first thing you see is mount points everywhere, all over the body. There's Q20 mounts everywhere. The second thing is you can attach a top handle to this that the FX3 comes with, which will give you pro audio solutions. You just put it on top and then you can plug in your favorite XLR mics and all that other good stuff. The next thing, when we turn it on, it has tally lights all over the place. So when you press record, that turns red, which looks so freaking dope. This turns red and that turns red, and there's a front record button in addition to the record button on top. Now, when it comes to buttons and all that stuff, the FX3 has way more buttons that you can customize than the ZV-E1 does. It's got a joystick on here. The ZV-E1 doesn't have a joystick at all. The Sony FX3 has two CF Express Type A card slots on the right hand side, which is huge for redundancy and all that good stuff. On the left hand side, you do have a full-size HDMI port that can output 16-bit RAW over HDMI, and of course the ZV-E1 can't do that. And then lastly, before we talk about software, the FX3 has a built-in fan. So if professional shoots or filming outdoors at high temperature heat or anything like that is something that you do on a regular basis, the fan is hugely important, because the ZV-E1 does not have one, and it can and will overheat in hotter situations. The FX3 actually has a mechanical shutter, whereas the ZV-E1 does not. The FX3 does have a better rear display than the Sony ZV-E1, and it's also a lot more expensive. The FX3 is $3,900, the ZV-E1 is $2,200. With that being said, let's focus on software, because there's also some differences. The FX3 has things like True 24p, it has Cine EI built into it, it's got some anamorphic support built into it, it's got DCI 4K in there, but overall, the Sony FX3 is a much more professional, industrialized camera that focuses on rigging it up, and it focuses on having things that people in cinema want, like True 24p, DCI 4K, etc., etc. And again, exact same image chain out of both, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, let's talk about advantages of the ZV-E1, because it does have quite a freaking few. Now, the first thing is it is smaller. Some of you may or may not like that, but it is a much smaller, more inconspicuous camera. It's certainly cheaper. We just talked about that, but it also freaking looks cheaper. So it doesn't look like a premium camera at all, and that might be a good thing or a bad thing depending on where you live at, because in Cleveland, you know, you might get knocked over the head for your camera gear. You know, I much prefer taking more inconspicuous cameras out with me. But with that being said, if we flip both cameras over and looked at them from a top-down perspective, you can see this right here, and this is the vlog mic that's built into it. Now, this mic is really, really good. All right? I'm not hyping it up, okay? Is it a dedicated mic, like a shotgun mic? Like, can it match that quality? No, but in a pinch, it's really, really good. And I've made several vlogs with just the built-in internal mic, and nobody's ever complained about the audio quality. Now, the only other thing physically that the ZV-E1 has over the FX3 will be it has a higher speed USB-C port. So the USB-C port on the Sony ZV-E1 can support up to 4K 30 live stream, where the FX3 has a much slower USB-C port. So physically it is pretty much inferior to the FX3, but where it makes up for it is with the AI chip that's in here and software. And let's start with the AI chip, right? So the AI chip in the ZV-E1 is just like the one in the A7R5, A6700, and it gives you so much extra. Let's start with autofocus. So the autofocus in the FX3 is great, but the autofocus out the ZV-E1 is really top notch because it has that AI chip in there. So that means it can detect more subjects. So it can do like people, cars, planes, trains, insects, automobiles, spaceships, aliens, all that good stuff. Plus it could do human pose estimation. So that means that the camera can detect like if your back is turned and if it sees your shoulders rotating, it's smart enough to know that your eye is coming along with it. So it'll start to look for the eye and all that good stuff. And you can program faces when it comes to video for facial recognition. So the autofocus is better in the ZV-E1. The stabilization is also better in the ZV-E1. Not only is the standard stabilization better, but the active is better. Plus it has dynamic stabilization, which although it is a 30% crop, if you put on a wide lens like a 16mm, it can really give you some gimbal-like shots. It also adds in things like auto framing, which for me is a game-changing feature because it'll actually like follow you around throughout the frame, and it looks like you got a freaking cameraman in there, and it's also smart enough to like zoom out and zoom in if more people come to the frame, and stop the aperture down if more people come to the frame to get more people in focus. So it does that. It does framing stabilizer, which no matter what you're doing with the camera, it'll keep the subject, or it'll try to keep them squared up and in the center. And it works decently well. I'm not gonna say that's a feature that I'm gonna use a lot or that I use a lot, but it's there if you want it. And also because of the AI chip, this gets better auto white balance and better auto exposure than the Sony FX3. Another huge thing, and this is really, really huge, is uncompromised clear image zoom. So with the FX3, you could do clear image zoom, right? But once you switch on clear image zoom, you lose out on your tracking features. The ZV-E1 is not like that because it has the AI chip in there to help out with the extra lifting that's required. So once you go into clear image zoom on the Sony ZV-E1, it can still do full tracking, autofocus. You can even go to active stabilization. Like you could keep piling stuff on with clear image zoom and it won't shut off features like the Sony FX3 would do because of the AI chip. So that's another real game changer thing. It's an easy way to get more reach out of your lenses, plus you don't lose any features like you would with the FX3. The ZV-E1 also gets the new built-in time-lapse function, which spits out a actual video file. You could customize how you want the time-lapse to be and all that stuff, and it could even give you the time-lapse at S-Log3 if you want to go color grade it afterwards. The last thing I want to show you is the new screen versus the FX3. Now, I will say that the FX3 has the better rear display out of the two cameras. It's higher quality, right? So if you take a look on the borders of the screen, then there's buttons on the screen. So now you can start and stop recording on the screen. You can take photos on the screen. You can also do things like change your shutter speed on the screen and change your ISO on the screen, right? Now, of course, they had to do something because there's less buttons than the FX3 has, so they had to make up for it somewhere. But what I'm saying is, on the screen of the ZV-E1, now you have a whole lot of extra options that you could get to, and you can swipe this away if you don't want it. The FX3, although it does have Sony's new menu system, and it has the main 1 and 2 pages, and the ZV-E1 has the main 1 and 2 pages also, it doesn't get the new on-screen controls on the main display to, you know, do all those things that we just talked about. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up, okay? Obviously, these cameras are aimed at two different types of people, okay? I think that's important that we freaking say that. The FX3 is really geared for people who want to take video a little bit more seriously, right? So it's got the industrial body, it's got the audio top panel, it's got multiple record buttons and all that stuff, and it's got those cinema features like Cine EI and anamorphic support and all that stuff, but it doesn't have all the new stuff like the ZV-E1 does because it doesn't have the newer processor. So for some of y'all, the FX3 is still going to be the better option. You won't get all the new snazzy creature features, but for some people that stuff is not useful. For me, however, the ZV-E1 is a really, really good camera that complements me, right? I'm not shooting things professionally anymore. I'm not, you know, I don't shoot too many videos for other people anymore, so I don't really need all of those benefits anymore. And in its place, I much prefer to have a cheaper camera that can still give me the same type of image quality that gives me a smaller footprint, better autofocus, better stabilization. It gives me a ton of AI stuff. The built-in vlog mic is clutch, and I got to put some money back in my pocket. So for me, the ZV-E1 right now is the better camera, but it might not be for you. And I hope this video was helpful in helping you determine which one of these that you should buy with your hard-earned money. And with that being said, I have to go ship off the Sony FX3. It's the end of the road. I might end up buying another one if I regret this, like I said in my last video. But for now, I got to do what makes Terry happy, and that means that the FX3 is going goodbye. It's already sold. Sorry, so don't try to come in the comments saying you want to buy it. It's sold already. And I hope this video was helpful. So till next time, I'm out of here. Tight shirt, Terry Warfield. Piece of chicken grease. I'm out. Peace.